Welcome back to another video. Today I will be giving you my return list. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments down below, and let me know yours in the community tab. I'll put the certain player's name there and you can press return or release. Obviously the season's come to an end. The return list will be coming out soon in the next few days. I'd imagine not the end of the world if we don't keep anyone, but there's just some that I would rather keep than others who I think we've definitely got to close the door to and send them packing because they haven't been good enough for either 2 seasons, 3 seasons, or this last season that we've had. I think we need to be a bit ruthless. Maybe I haven't been with a couple of mine, but we have to rebuild, but we have to try and keep it stability. We have to go for stability, but we've already got a handful of players that are more than good enough at the minute, and keeping Hughes helps that as well. So let's get into the loans. Costello, he's just been terrible. I think him and Neves deserve to go in the same category. We've struggled all season on that left side. Chapman had a good run in the team, injured for the end of the season. Hopefully he's back next season. But it's definitely a position we need to look at. There's definitely players out there. I think National League could be a good route. Maybe look at a few younger players down there. We've got to get that recruitment spot on because in January we were way off. I mean, bringing in Costello and Neves, replacing them with Tariq Wright, as well as I know we couldn't keep Tariq Wright. It was basically out of our hands. We should have had a plan in place to replace him better than a lad who's barely played at Newport County, who finished near bottom of the table, and Costello, who's a highly tipped player from Burnley, but had no technical ability. I mean, they both had effort, they both give it their all, but in terms of technical ability, I mean, I can tell you a couple of times when they've won the ball out of play, they've got a terrible first touch, and I'll happily forget them playing for Bradford City. And then you've got other two who probably didn't get the chance that they probably deserved. Pereira and Bowler, who obviously we shouldn't be getting back this season. Pereira, fantastic last season. I think everyone had a bit of nostalgia when we brought him back and wanted him to get more chances in the team. Should have featured in the run into the end of the season. Like I say, we struggled on that left side. Scott Banks were looking a bit tired at times, and same with Jamie Walker. And you've had Pereira on the bench the whole time, and Mark Hughes didn't turn to him. So whether it's something in training, we'll never know. Only Mark Hughes will know why he didn't get more game time, but he is a player that I felt like he had something to offer in the final running, so I wish him well. Whether he moves on next, probably he's a League One player, like I say. And then Talaji Bowler, obviously I think he's only played 2 games, might have came on for a couple of minutes towards the back end of the game. He had a terrible game against Stockport away, that was his debut, struggled to take a throw in, got caught out defensively. But one thing I did see in that game, he did have pace and he did look to get forward. And it was his first game, barely played for a while, he looked rusted, but I was willing to give him a chance. Went to Mansfield, he struggled for the first 10-20 minutes, but then when he got going he looked decent and he was getting forward and put a few good crosses in. Then he got his injury and they didn't get another sniff. When you were coming up against Liam Rideout, and I think that's another thing when we look at Mark Hughes and the season just gone, not taking a risk and not changing his team too much. I think Bowler deserved to come back into a team with Liam Rideout's performances, and I'll get into Liam Rideout in a bit, but Bowler, for me, again like Pereira, should have got more of a win in the team because you just never know. Definitely looked to be better than Rideout in that. In those 10-20 minutes before his injury against Mansfield, he looked to be a decent player who had a bit of potential. So they're the 4 who we definitely probably won't be getting back and probably shouldn't be. For numerous reasons, but then the 2 who definitely impressed are Critchlow and Banks. Critchlow's contract's up at the end of the season. They out renew in Huddersfield, so he's a free agent. He could come back, but I think there's a few things why he won't come back. I think obviously the death threats, maybe he's thinking I need to move on. I could be looking at League One, or I could go back to Bradford when, and it's a minority, but those minority might have just stuck in his head. But he did look to move on from it, so hopefully he has. He had a good season, but I can see him playing in League One. A few fans are looking at him in League One clubs saying he could be a good player for us. He's great playing out with the ball at his feet. He's got recovery pace and he ticks a lot of boxes. But for me, one thing is his physicality and his height. He could get done a bit in that higher level, but he's had a fantastic season for us and definitely one of our better players. And same with Scott Banks, he has been our bright spark. I've been a bit harsh on him sometimes this season, but that's because he gets so much of the ball, and because he's had such a good season, you expect that consistently. But he has developed really well from his first game, and he does look to get at players and drive with the ball, and he has a bit of confidence, and it's something we haven't seen in a winger for a few seasons, and consistently done that. But in terms of getting goals and assists, I think it's next season he'll definitely improve. But again, he'll be looking at League One or potentially Championship level, because it looks like he's got his sights on playing for Crystal Palace. In terms of who had released, then Abaisa, 27 now, he's the biggest disappointment for me in terms of the players we've signed in the last couple of seasons. When he got released by Scunthorpe, I really wanted us to sign him. Pacey, has a good shot on him, takes a bit of a risk when running at players, has a shot from outside the box, and he looked like a really exciting player. Whether Derek Adams has a big part to play in that, I don't know. But he's just been a big disappointment. I just expected a lot more from him, and when he has been fit, he did look a bit rusty, and he's just been hampered by injuries. I wish him well wherever he goes, because I do suspect we won't be renewing his contract, and like I say, I wish him well, but unfortunately he just hasn't been good enough. When he has had a few good streaks, he's then gone and thrown a few bad performances in which got him out of the team, then he got injured again. And that's just been the story of his career at Bradford City. Oscar Frelkel, 29 now, and Lee said about him the better. Definitely releasing him. He's just never had a consistent, good spell. I don't think he's had one good game. He's had a good couple of pre-seasons, but he's just been terrible. And he's probably fourth choice right back at the club. Probably National League level. I think he had a decent loan spell at Oldham. I wish him well wherever he goes. I hope he has a successful spell, but he's just never been good enough for us. Luke Hendry, bang average player. He needs game time. Again, he gives effort 100%. I wish him well wherever he goes. I can't see he's renewing his contract. I can't see him wanting to be a backup for another season, so Luke Hendry would be released from me as well. Jan Songo released as well. Only had 2 starts for Walsall and then a couple of substitution appearances. First half of the season as well, didn't really start for us, came on the bench. Never really fancied by Hughes, he's a bit more of a no-nonsense centre back, isn't really good with his ball at his feet. I would have liked to have kept him as a rotation player. He's quite versatile, can play in a midfield role, and when he has been quite decent for us this season, it has been coming on in the last few minutes, playing in that midfield role, tidying it up. And I expected him to have played more, but he doesn't suit the system, and he's getting towards that latter age, and I think we have to be ruthless. I like him as a character. He had a great season last season, but is he what we need? Probably not. I wish him well if he goes to another League 2 club. And it hasn't gone right for him at City from Morecambe, and it hasn't gone right for him at Walsall either. So, like I say, I wish him well. Liam Rydal, 32 now, slow, all-round bang average League 2 left back, and we need better. Whether he could stay as a backup, I wouldn't be for that. Again, he's 32. And he's just slow. It takes him ages to get up and down the left flank. I think he has been exposed by the lack of a really good left winger to be able to produce off that left side. Maybe if he had a Chapman consistently performing down that side all season, maybe he might have been a better player for that. But he has been overly reliant on getting down the flank quick, getting a quick crossing, and his crossing ability is okay, but he's way too slow for this league. He's been skinned far too many times. Adam Clayton, it was a really tough one, because I do really like him. I think he controls the game. I think when he came in January, he had a really good start, and even the last few games when he's come back from his injury, he has looked pretty decent. But do you want someone who's pretty decent at the age of 34? Maybe his legs going next season. Is he going to be able to replicate those early performances at the club? You've got the Smallwood factor as well. You can't play with them too. It's too slow of a midfield. I think we have to be a bit more dynamic in midfield. Maybe if we try to keep him on as maybe a coach or player coach, that could work. I think he's a great leader, got experience. But in terms of on the pitch, I don't think he'll be able to do it next season for a full 46 games, or potentially more if we have another similar season. Unless he's maybe willing to have a 1-year deal, maybe low wages, and accepting that he's more of a rotation for Smallwood and can come on and see games out, maybe I'd retain him then. But for me, I think he'll be wanting games. Other players I'd retain then: Andy Cook, 1-year deal only. I think 2-year deal maybe with relatively low wages, and if he wants a 3-year deal, for me, if he wants that, go to Wrexham. I think we've got to be ruthless. I think he could have a poor season next season. When a player gets Golden Boot and plays so high, how often do you see them not do so well the next season? He does get goals everywhere he goes. He's had a fantastic season with little service, so I'd definitely keep him. But I think we do need a different option with him. We've been linked to Adji. I'm not too keen on him, but the type of profile is what I'd like. A pacing, nippy striker who can maybe play off the wing as well and can skin someone, give us that different option. But I'd definitely keep him for a year. He's 32, 33 in November. This time next year he's 33, turning 34. You know, do we want to give him 2-3 years when his legs could go, or you know, he could get a few injuries? I think we've got to be more cautious in giving players like him a 2-3 year deal, and be a bit more ruthless and say, you've been great for us, but we're only giving you 1 year. But obviously, I'd want to keep him. He's been unbelievable this season for very little chances, but he's been given in front of goal. Gilead, I'd retain him. I'm not too sure where this criticism's coming from him. He gives 100% every game. He's fantastic in terms of his defensive work. Going forward, his goal contributions and his output's been, you know, poor. It's not been what you want from a number 8. But in terms of carrying the ball up the pitch, like I said, the intensity, his pressure, he started the season poor, but he's finished it really well. I'd definitely give him maybe a 2-year deal, maybe a 1-year deal, and rotate him more with Ryan East. I think for certain games, Gilead's a fantastic asset. But it's whether he wants, you know, bigger wages. I think he's already on quite a few high wages from us because he came as a star player. But he isn't that. He's more of a workhorse. He'll do a bit of dirty work in terms of underrated work off the ball. So I really like him. I think he's a great asset and offers a lot off the ball. But like many are saying, is he giving us the off the ball work? I think that's where we need to improve. And he can be a player who plays in certain games. He can come off the bench. He can start games, but I do think we need creative players with pace. He has the pace, but he needs to improve his creativity. And maybe, like I say, if we rotate him with Ryan East, that would be a better role for him. Hughes has to move away from that, and we've got to be a bit more ruthless in terms of not being stubborn and not sticking with the same team. You know, Gilead will suit certain games, but so will Ryan East, or maybe a more creative 10/8 who's a bit more adventurous in the final third. That's definitely what we need, but I'd definitely keep Gilead. And he's versatile. He's a big asset for us. Kane Scales, at the age of 21, I'd retain him. Same with Heath Richardson, both similar. Scales, I think he's had, from what I haven't watched a single game of Farsley Celtic, but he does seem to be scoring a few goals. He does seem to be playing well. I've seen a couple of his goals. And he's a poor side. I think they stayed up, correct me if I'm wrong. I'd give him a 2-year deal. I think he's 21, turning 22. This time in 2 years he'd be 23, and I think that's a good marker to see whether he's developed or not, where we are as a club. And I think he could even be a good backup for Jamie Walker. He seems to be a bit nippy. He had a good pre-season, and I'd definitely retain him because I do think there's a player in there with Kane Scales. Every time I've seen him play, he does look like a decent player. So I'd definitely look at retaining him. Whether he goes on loan to National League, whether we can get him out at a League 2 club, I think 2 years we can see where he's developed and I say 23 is sort of the stopgap. Any higher than that you're not going to develop too much more. So it'll be interesting to see where he is in 2 years' time. But if we don't return him, again I wish him the best of luck. Same with Heath Richardson, I'd give him maybe a year contract extension. I think we do need that sort of a backup keeper, someone who can learn from Lewis and Doyle. And you know, can improve under them. I think that's something we haven't really had in the last few seasons, and that sort of recruitment needs to improve, and that sort of structuring as a club needs to improve to develop players under experienced players at the minute. And I think we signed Ryan East to try and do that, improve under Richie Smallwood, and same with Richardson, improve under Lewis and Doyle, and hopefully he has done. I think we're linked with a Rangers keeper, so hopefully for Heath Richardson to replace him to be the backup to Lewis. Or hopefully to be replacing Lewis either, but I'd give him another year, see where he is then, see how he's progressed, see what Doyle and Hughes think of him, and see what level he's at then. But definitely we'll be looking to keep him. But again, it's another one of those. Only Hughes knows how much he's improved and developed in this last year, and whether he knows if he's good enough. But I think something we've got to improve on over the last couple of seasons is giving youth players more of a run in the team. Give them an opportunity in the path to success. We've seen a couple of the young players move up to higher level clubs. Maybe we've got a couple of fees for them, but I would like to see more of a pathway into the first team and not just give them a couple of loans and then release them, because I think that's a bit lazy. So I'd like to see him give more of a chance to the younger players, and Doyle move him on to a goalkeeper coach. That's inevitable. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below on the retain list. It'll come out in a couple of days. Probably do a reaction to that, and also do yours in the community tab as well. Like the video if you did, subscribe if you're new. Have a good one.